Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. That's Ready Homeschool. I'm Mrs. T. Today we are going to be talking about more children's books, and specifically we're going to talk about anger. Anger has been the emotion and the feeling that my kids have really struggled with. And I'm actually even going to take that a step farther. Since becoming a parent, it has been the emotion that I have struggled the most with coping with, just because it's hard being a parent. It is so hard being a parent. And I have found that reading children's literature that focuses on helping children cope with emotions taught me a lot of really useful things. So I wanted to share some of these books with you. As for purchasing any of these books, I did buy all of these books, but I would recommend going to your library and seeing if they have any of these or similar books, because although these books are wonderful that I'm talking about, they're not the only ones out there. And a lot of libraries have very similar books. So talk to your librarian and see if they have anything that they would recommend for coping with anger. All right, so the first three books that I have are going to talk a little bit about feelings in general and learning to identify feelings. So the first book is one by Usborne. It's called All About Feelings. And this book here helps your child kind of recognize how they are feeling. And they go through all the basic emotions. You've got sadness, you've got peace or calm, you have anger and frustration, and it talks a little bit about how feelings change and you can influence how your feelings are navigated by doing different things. So they have a lot of really good content in here. I really like this one. And this is a great book to read, just not specifically like to help cope with anger, but to help remind, like adding it in, it's been really good to help remind my toddler and my preschooler that the things that they feel are normal, the things that they feel are okay, and to know that the things that are hard that they're feeling, those difficult emotions, those big emotions, are temporary. They are things that they are going to be getting through, and it's like a nice little reminder. Now, another book that we have also from Usborne is a lot simpler. It's called What Are Feelings? And this is a Lift the Flap book. So if your child is like mine and they like flaps, books with like these little flaps, this will be a big hit. This one uses animals primarily. So the other one was focused on like human characters and was actually very diverse. I like that book. This one uses animals to kind of discuss these feelings. And this goes an even like higher level. This is a much quicker read. The Feelings, All About Feelings book, we typically don't read in like one sitting, but this one we absolutely can. And it navigates through some of those basic feelings like worry, frustration, sadness, gladness, etc. We also have this one that we recently added. It's a Little Scribble Spot. And this kind of talks a little bit with your kids about how our emotions are often very intertwined and difficult to identify. And so it goes through and it kind of starts this concept of identifying colors to an emotion. And this is a really good book to help your child kind of recognize how you can be feeling more than one thing at a time. It could be a little bit complicated and very difficult to figure out how you're feeling, but how you can start to entangle those emotions, those feelings, and start to really identify how you are feeling. All right, now let's talk about the books that are specific about anger and coping with anger. The first book here is called Even Superheroes Have Bad Days. My kids are really fascinated with this concept of superheroes, and I think kids are these days. I feel like everywhere we go, there are kids playing superheroes or wearing a superhero shirt or something. And this book really focuses on how upset superheroes sometimes have the power to do really, destructive things. They can use their super muscles, they can tear down buildings, they can cause problems, but superheroes just wouldn't do that. Instead, they exercise, they do yoga, they breathe, and it kind of gives an example with kids what they can do instead of being disruptive and causing issues. And this is my favorite page here. It says, when superheroes don't get their way, when they're sad, when they're mad, when they have a bad day, they could super rampage, they could, but they don't, because real superheroes just wouldn't, they won't. And it kind of reminds them that they have the power of being, they have the power of taking that emotion and doing something not so good with it, but they don't have to. And it takes bigger strength to choose to do something different, and it's possible, and that makes them a superhero. Now, the next book that I have is a little bit more for an older audience. We've read it with both preschooler and toddler, but it is definitely more toward, I would say, a little bit of a higher, and that one's called Taste Your Words. In this one, it tells the story of Amara, who gets into a fight with her friend, and her friend calls her a name, she calls her friend a name, and her mom reminds her to taste her words. And when we say mean things, those words have bad tastes. When we are kind, when we apologize, when we say we love each other, those have a nice taste to them. It's a very interesting concept, and what I like about it is it's something that you can remind your child as you read, like, ooh, how do you think that would taste? How did it taste when you said that you didn't like somebody, right? That doesn't taste very good. It makes your mouth feel icky. It makes you feel icky. And it's a really nice reminder that our words really do matter. Okay, so these next two books are from that Little Spot series again. We have a little spot of happiness and we have a little spot of anger. And I like to do both of these kind of in conjunction because it's a good reminder that our happiness always comes back even when we feel angry. Now, what I really like about this one is this anger book is it gives you tips and tricks, your child tips and tricks on how to get that anger, those red spots, to dwindle down and eventually turn into a green spot, which is the calm. And it talks a little bit about how when we are mean, we can really have a hard time, like we feel like yelling, we aren't communicating well. And what we really need to do is make that red spot that's so big, shrink it down to the green spot. Now, one thing about these books is if you go to her website, which I will link down below, she has released all sorts of content that have like music and videos that kind of correspond to these. We haven't explored those very much. I'm just about to like get into that whole realm, but it is pretty cool that there are other things that you can do to supplement these two books. All right, these next ones are from the Learning to Get Along series. These books are really good. The first one here is called Cool Down and Talk Through Anger. It tells the story of this little boy who is feeling very angry, and it is just very blunt in the way that it talks about things. So it says, like, kicking, hitting, using mean words can hurt people and their feelings, and that is not okay. So it's very it's very black and white. These are some things that you might feel like you want to do, but it's not okay to hurt somebody. And it walks you through a bunch of different ways that your child can cool down in order to work through their anger and solve a problem. And what's really nice about this series is in the back, this is meant for you as the parent. They're going to give you some discussion questions. If your child is struggling with a particular aspect of controlling their anger or identifying it or resolving conflict, they give you some things you can work through. They also have different games you can do, and they have just suggestions. They've got journals, creating calming collages, different ideas that you can do at home to help your child learn how to cool down when they're angry and then work through their anger and resolve a problem. This is another one from the same series that works really well in conjunction with that one, and that's Talk and Work It Out. So if your child identifies that they are feeling a little bit frustrated, this is a perfect one that kind of tells them and gives some insight into how you can talk through your issues, the frustration, and work out a problem with somebody else. So this is like a good supplement to the working through anger. In this one, it tells a story about this little boy who's just struggling right now he's frustrated with a friend, and it gives all sorts of just great advice, and it shows how he starts thinking about the situation. It shows him talking to a parent, which is one thing that I really like. All of these two books both have your child talk to an adult that they trust when they're having a hard time with their emotions, which is very important, is being able to communicate how you're feeling. And just like the other one, it has that parent guide in the back, which gives all sorts of additional resources and additional ways for you and your child to work together to learn how to work out problems. Okay, the next series I have are 3 books, and this one is from the Best Behavior series. The first one here is called Hands Are Not for Hitting, and like the other one, it's got a different art style, but like the other one, it talks about all the things that our hands are great for. They're great for saying hello, they're great for helping, but it's not for other things like pushing and hitting. Hands are for keeping us safe, and it talks like, they come up with questions as you're going through it. Like, can you think of ways that your hands can help? Can you think of ways that your hands can do X, Y, Z? And they just kind of tell you all different scenarios. Now, at the back of this book, what they do is something very similar. It's a word to grown-ups, and they have this whole section here that talks about children and violence. They have discussion starters and activities. They give you things that you can do with your kid who may be struggling with hitting and how to approach that. And if your child struggles at all with hitting, this is like the perfect book to help navigate that. Now, one thing I do want to point out is this is the paperback book, but on the back here, they give, each of these have a corresponding board book. So if your child is a little bit younger, you could do the board book as well, which we have gotten from the library a number of times, the different ones in the series, and they are equally as great. In fact, they're fast to read, so the point is driven home a little quicker. We also have Voices Are Not for Yelling. It's very similar, same thing. This one has a guide in the back as well. And this one here, Words Are Not for Hurting. So it talks about the power of your words, and it comes with a guide. Now, the last thing that I wanted to kind of flag here as a book that's really helped here at our house while navigating emotions is recognizing, well, first we had to recognize why my kids were struggling. My kids were oftentimes getting triggered, their anger was getting triggered because they wanted to make a choice, and it was maybe a situation they couldn't make choices in. Whether it be, we have to leave the house. I'm sorry, but we have to. Sometimes we gotta do things we don't wanna do. Or we have to go do XYZ things. Sorry, it's time for bed. We have to go to sleep. And sometimes they felt like they needed to make a choice. So this one doesn't talk about emotions, but sometimes we would ask our child, do you want to make choices right now? You look a little frustrated because you don't have a choice. Did you want to make a choice for Danny? And this book here, What Should Danny Do?, has been a huge help with my children feeling like they have control over something. So basically, you navigate with Danny through different scenarios, and you can make good or bad choices for Danny and see the consequences. And sometimes my children will pick the bad choice every single time, and they want to do it again, and then they pick it every single time, and then they start shifting. And sometimes they just need to feel like they have control, and having control even over a fictional character has been a really good outlet for their anger, and it's helped them identify that they're feeling frustrated because they wanted to make a decision. All right, you guys, that is it. Those are all the books that I have that I wanted to talk about today. But again, talk to your librarian, see if they have any recommendation. There are a lot of nonfiction books out there, and they also have all sorts of resources as well that they have at their fingertips. Let them share them with you. Take advantage of the library. And if you guys have any questions, comment down below. Feel free to ask them, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Oh, before you go, hit that like and that subscribe button. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.